Everything in class seemed normal. The teacher had just started his boring talk about samurais when Rumi, a cute but a bit annoying girl, noticed her friend Seki playing with his erasers. She kept staring at him and was surprised when he started taking out a bunch of erasers from his bag, one after another. Rumi tried to warn him quietly that the teacher becomes a total gorilla when he gets angry, but Seki ignored her and told her to stay quiet instead. Rumi was shocked at how serious he was about shutting her up, so she got angry over this small thing and acted all tough in full tsundere style, while Seki kept playing with his erasers. After focusing for a long time, Seki lined up the erasers like dominoes. Rumi was surprised by his stupid actions, but forced herself to pay attention to the lecture. Meanwhile, the boy made a kind of swing using erasers and pencils, and Rumi's attention went back to him again. The teacher asked Rumi to read, but she was still watching Seki out of curiosity. Finally, the teacher got annoyed and shouted at her, ordering her to stand up and read to the whole class. Rumi got nervous and stood up quickly, shaking the desk and breaking Seki's focus. The eraser in his hand slipped onto the desk and started the whole domino chain. Seki panicked and tried to stop the erasers with his hand so all his hard work wouldn't go to waste. Rumi also got busy watching his actions. Both of them finally relaxed when he managed to break the chain in the middle. But as soon as Rumi turned around, she felt trapped by Seki's scary, blaming eyes. He kept staring at her, and Rumi started to wonder if everything really was her fault. She even forgot to read, so the teacher called her name again in a strict voice and asked if she was okay. After a while, Rumi saw the whole masterpiece that Seki had made just to pass the time. At first she was shocked, then she noticed a real firework at the end of the domino line. She screamed inside, thinking what would happen if it went off. But Seki happily knocked down the dominoes and hoped the chain would reach the end. The cable car made of pencils and erasers started moving slowly and finally hit the button and the fireworks started. But all of this only happened in Seki's mind. Rumi, scared, covered her head, but nothing happened. She felt relief when she realized the firework was only in her imagination. She stood up and tried to blame everything on Seki. At that moment, the teacher noticed her and called her name. Rumi got nervous and quickly tried to put all the blame on Seki, but our sneaky hero cleaned the desk and hid everything in a second. From the front, it looked like nothing had happened. Poor Rumi burned inside, but stayed quiet in front of everyone. When another teacher started his boring lecture, Rumi noticed that Seki was writing something for the first time. She soon realized she was wrong, because Seki was just carefully cleaning his desk. Rumi got annoyed, but admitted to herself that it was a good habit. The only problem was that he never used it for studying. Then she was surprised when Seki took out a whole toolkit. Rumi thought maybe he was going to repair his desk. The protagonist first started filling the holes and marks on the desk with a clay-like material. Rumi wondered who had taught him all this. When the filling was done, Seki used a sharp tool to rub those spots smooth. The fine dust from rubbing started flying toward Rumi. She got irritated and made a face, and saw that a pile of dust had also built up on the back of a boy sitting in front. She thought if he noticed, he would definitely explode in anger, but Seki kept working without a care. After a lot of hard work, the desk really started to shine, and Rumi's eyes went wide. She couldn't believe the desk was even reflecting sunlight. Seki went crazy with happiness, obsessed with his shiny desk, while Rumi called it a totally stupid hobby and ignored him. Seki stared at her for a while, then calmly sat down and pretended to listen to the class like everyone else. After a while, Rumi felt his restless eyes on her. The sneaky hero started begging with his eyes to let him polish her desk too, but Rumi quickly refused and protected her desk with both hands. She got angry and thought he should just be happy with his own desk. Seki tried to bribe her, but his childish tricks didn't work. He proudly put a shiny coin in front of her like it was a big gift. But Rumi stayed stubborn in her tsundere style and told herself to focus on class and stop this nonsense. Finally, Seki gave up and kept rubbing his own desk with a sad face. Seeing him so down, Rumi's heart softened and she decided that was enough. She would let him polish her pencil board so he would stop acting like a child. Seki got his energy back and started cleaning the board with excitement, but Rumi told him to do it slowly and quietly so the teacher wouldn't notice. He quickly smoothed the front side and proudly showed it to her. Rumi nodded a little to approve, so Seki got even happier and started rubbing the back of the board too, until the whole board shined like a mirror. Seeing his childish but innocent way, Rumi started to change her opinion about him. When she took the board back, she smiled because it really looked like a small mirror now. But all the static electricity from rubbing suddenly went to her hair and made it stand straight up. Rumi stood up in embarrassment and the whole class stared at her. She quickly said she was fine, just like that. Then she looked at Seki with anger and promised herself never to do a good deed again. At the same time, she noticed Seki's hair was also standing up weirdly, so she made a face and called him a loser in her heart to let out her anger. In the science lab during a chemistry lecture, Rumi decided from her heart that this time she would really pay attention. But as soon as she saw Seki doing something suspicious again, she secretly hoped he wouldn't bother her today. The sneaky protagonist took out a chisel from his pocket and started digging under the desk. When Rumi bent down to look, she saw he was carving something into an eraser. When he finished, Seki took out stamp ink and made a cool stamp from the carved eraser. He looked very happy with his art, but Rumi felt bad that he wasted a whole eraser on something so useless and thought maybe boys often did these kinds of stupid things. Suddenly, Seki quickly hid that special eraser because Ozawa was sitting with him. Rumi knew Ozawa didn't pay attention to things around him, so she thought maybe Seki was more careful with him than with teachers. She laughed a little, thinking if Seki got scared of Ozawa, she could study in peace. But the boy started a new project again. Rumi tried hard to stop herself from looking, but her curiosity ruined her studying. Seki carved another eraser and made something almost like a real seal, which made Rumi's eyes go wide. Seeing his skill, she started thinking of him as a professional craftsman in her mind. Seki measured and, for a moment, put the chisel down, so Ozawa immediately picked it up and called Rumi's pencil box total trash, saying there was nothing in it to kill time. Seki got upset. Rumi's eyes showed clear irritation, but Ozawa didn't understand anything. He took out the stamp ink and, laughing, grabbed Seki's fingers and pressed his fingerprints onto his own notebook. For Rumi, this was just plain cruel, and Seki stared at him in shock. But Ozawa soon got bored of this game too. Seki cleaned his dirty fingers and took out another eraser from his pocket, which made Rumi panic inside, thinking he should at least sit quietly for one period. But Seki opened the new eraser and made a full stamp seal from it, which surprised Rumi again. She was impressed by his skill, but also thought he would probably never actually use it in his life, while Seki stared proudly at his masterpiece. Before erasing the board, the teacher announced a test as a warning, and both Ozawa and Rumi almost died inside. Rumi quickly tried to write down everything in panic, while Seki was still obsessed with his stamp and kept looking at it. Rumi was sure that later the same guy would complain the most about the test. While writing, Ozawa made a mistake and remembered he forgot to bring his eraser today. Without thinking, he picked up Seki's eraser and, in a dramatic way, used it hard to erase his mistake. Poor Seki tried to stop him, but it was too late. The eraser broke into pieces right there, and Seki's heart broke with it. Ozawa just shrugged carelessly and told him to buy a better eraser next time, then sat back happily. Rumi watched Seki break down mentally and felt bad for him inside, but the next moment, the teacher announced the end of class. The reality hit Rumi like a shock too, that she herself hadn't written half the notes, and just like Seki, she fell into the same dark hole and started crying over her own fate. The teacher announced a disaster drill and started giving long, useless instructions. Rumi was sure that any careless student would get no mercy from them. She saw Seki playing with robot toys again and secretly hoped he would stop his stupid actions. She thought the teacher must be watching everything. He set the robots lying down and relaxing in such a way that Rumi's mind was blown. In her opinion, boys usually make action fighting scenes with robots, but this calm, home-playing position looked totally stupid. Suddenly, the alarm rang throughout the school and everyone was told to hide under their desks. The teacher guided the whole class and all the kids followed the order, but Rumi noticed Seki wasn't taking the instructions seriously at all. She saw his robots bent and stuck as if a real earthquake had come. Rumi thought it was all stupid, but admitted that at least the robots were taking things seriously. Then all the kids calmly lined up and went outside to the ground, following the rules, while Seki acted like a hero, strolling out happily and chatting with another boy as if nothing had happened. Rumi was surprised at how carefree he was, but then she saw that on the back of his jacket, the robot family was following all the rules and doing the drill as if their lives depended on it. Rumi thought to herself that she wished Seki could be this serious, then remembered that actually, Seki was the one controlling them too. She admitted that the robot family was really amazing, and she couldn't stop laughing as she made up a whole story about them in her mind. In the yard, while Seki was laughing hard about something, Rumi's attention stayed on the robot family. Seki laughed so much that he accidentally kicked the whole robot family far away, and he didn't even realize what he had done. Rumi felt hurt, but quickly decided to handle the situation herself in anger. When Seki finally stopped laughing, he suddenly remembered the robot family and started looking for them in a panic. When he saw the whole family sitting calmly in Rumi's lap, Rumi glared at him with a scary look and made it clear that because of his pathetic behavior, he didn't deserve them. Seki tried to say something and explain himself, but Rumi turned her face away and completely ignored him. The drill ended, and everyone started walking back to class. Rumi's friends saw her face and asked if she was okay. In tsundere style, Rumi said she was completely fine. As soon as she got back to class, she made small books for the robot family and set them up in order, feeling real happiness herself. She imagined a cute family scene in her mind, while on the other side, Seki kept looking at her with confused eyes. Rumi gave him such a scary look that he quietly backed off, and she happily spent her time with the robots. As soon as the new class started, instead of paying attention, Rumi saw her classmates throwing notes to each other. She noticed other kids doing the same and wondered what was going on. She was sure it had to be another one of Seki's tricks, but when she saw a whole mountain of notes on his desk, she was shocked at how he had collected so many. Seki calmly took out a stamp and started approving each note one by one, which confused Rumi even more. This time, he threw a note toward Rumi as well. When she picked it up, she was surprised that the note looked just like a real message. When she opened it, she found out it was from her friend Tomoka, who explained that today, Seki was acting as the postmaster for the whole class. Rumi felt sorry for how seriously he was playing, like it was some government job. Tomoka called him professional and praised him, but Rumi thought it was all stupid and wondered what he even got out of it. Seki packed all the notes and passed them forward. Rumi kept reading the message and finally realized Tomoka was expecting a reply. She got annoyed, but in the end, decided to just write a letter to Seki. She wrote that he always played so much that he distracted her too. She gave the note to Seki, but he rejected it right away and handed her a whole paper with instructions and rules on how to submit a request. Rumi was shocked that even such a useless guy was doing all this with so many rules in his empty life. With no other choice, she prepared the note again according to his instructions and tried to give it. But Seki pulled out another sheet with even more rules and regulations. She felt like dying just looking at all that writing, but still forced herself to follow everything. After filling out the whole form, she felt satisfied that the problem should be solved now, but our protagonist surprised her again. He put up a new sign saying, "Today's mail is closed." Rumi was about to explode with anger, but still carefully read the whole sign and noticed he had even made a proper post box for this act. She thought it was all extremely ridiculous, but admitted to herself that the service was actually full professional level. She saw the teacher was busy with the lecture, so she tried to reach back and put the letter in the postbox, but her hand couldn't reach. Not giving up, she leaned her seat back and stretched her arm, finally managing to drop the note inside, but lost her balance and almost fell, grabbing the whole class's attention. The teacher scolded her and told her to stay quiet. Rumi's legs started shaking from fear, but she managed to stop herself from falling. With tears in her eyes, she hoped inside that when Seki read the letter, he would finally realize what a huge pain he was for her. She kept burning inside until school ended, because Seki didn't even bother to check the mailbox before leaving class. She barely held herself together and decided to follow Plan B. Before leaving school, she went and put the same letter in Seki's shoe locker so that his mood would be ruined first thing in the morning, then left calmly. But unfortunately, another girl saw her doing this, and soon a new rumor about her spread all over the school. The teacher was doing his usual boring talk, and Rumi's eyes were fixed on Seki, who was completely focused on knitting. She was shocked that a boy was knitting, and right in front of her, someone who had been an expert at it since childhood and had every right to judge. She called him brave inside for doing this in front of her. Rumi had been knitting since first grade and got so good at it that later people didn't even believe she made all those things herself. For her, knitting was a very serious thing, not a game to waste time in class, so she thought if Seki did even a little careless or half-done work, she would definitely call him out for it. She was surprised at how fast he was working, but told herself that in knitting, speed wasn't important, neatness and accuracy were. She looked closely and realized he wasn't making any cloth because the thing was very small. Looking at the other things on the desk, she guessed maybe he was making a stuffed toy, and from the shape, she thought it might be a snake, and Rumi admitted Seki was exactly the type to do something like that. Then suddenly, she saw a double-ended Afghan hook in Seki's hand and made a proud face, thinking that just using these tools because everyone was going crazy buying them wasn't right. Every tool had its own place in use, and she felt Seki was using the wrong hook here. In her mind, she started a full lecture that if someone really wanted to make a stuffed toy, its surface had to be tight and strong, but the texture given by the Afghan hook was always loose and uneven, so she was sure the result would be disappointing. When Seki finally finished knitting, Rumi looked with a small smile, but wasn't impressed until she realized he was actually making a cactus. Then, even though she didn't want to, her attention got stuck on the cactus. In her mind, she pictured a tall, lonely cactus standing in the middle of a huge desert, and she thought the Afghan hook had made its thickness and texture so beautiful that the cactus looked almost alive. Rumi admitted to herself that she had completely lost. She had never seen such an amazing piece of knitting. Putting her expert knitter pride aside, she apologized to Seki in her heart for underestimating him, and with a shy face, hoped he might let her hug the cactus too. But Seki suddenly panicked and destroyed the whole cactus, turning it into a pile of yarn and thread. Rumi barely held back her tears, and with a scary shine in her eyes, demanded he make the masterpiece again. Instead of getting motivated, poor Seki just lost all his courage. In the boring math class, Rumi looked at today's topic and remembered she had already done all this work at cram school, so she decided she would focus on something else in this class. Just then, she heard the sound of Seki taking something out of his pocket. At first, she got annoyed, but as soon as she saw the little bear, her face turned red and she went crazy over how cute it was. Rumi put her pencil down on the desk and smiled happily, thinking she would just watch Seki's show today. Seki set up a tiny camping tent for the little bear. Rumi almost died from how cute it was and was surprised that Seki was playing such a calm and sweet game today. She wished the whole day could just be like this, but things slowly started to feel suspicious. She felt the tension in the air and wondered what was going on. Suddenly, she saw another little bear climbing up Maeda's back and started shaking in fear that it might get hurt. She scolded Seki that he shouldn't bother another student like this. Our careless hero quietly waited and watched the little bear slowly climbing up. Rumi watched its tiny steps closely, then realized Seki was controlling it with a thread. She was surprised at how carefully he was doing all this so no one noticed, and at the same time thought it was all stupid, but still kept watching with full attention. Maeda started moving to erase his mistake, so both Seki and Rumi got nervous. The bear's grip started to loosen, and in Rumi's mind, the whole dramatic scene played out like a life-or-death mountain climbing moment. The bear barely held on and kept moving up, but Maeda's collar became a roof blocking its path. In Rumi's mind, it turned into an overhang on a cliff, which was extremely hard to cross. She held her breath, watching to see what would happen. Then Maeda felt an itch on his back and started scratching all over, almost ruining the whole scene. Luckily, the bear managed to hang on somehow, making both Seki and Rumi breathe a sigh of relief. Rumi happily thanked inside that, because of Maeda's movements, the baby bear managed to cross the overhang. Now, both Seki and Rumi watched the final moments with full excitement. With Seki's cleverness and support, the little bear finally reached the top of the tall mountain and planted a small Japanese flag at the top. Rumi celebrated inside like a child, but at that moment, Maeda moved his neck, and all their happiness disappeared in a second. The bear flew straight toward the window and almost fell out, but Seki quickly pulled the thread and brought it back in time. The little bear sat back with its friend, and both had a happy ending. As soon as Rumi felt relieved, Seki picked up the hook again and tried once more to hang the bear on Maeda's neck. Rumi panicked and tried to stop him, but he went ahead anyway. Maeda turned around and gave such a scary look that Seki dropped everything and pretended to sleep like he was innocent. Instead of feeling sorry, Rumi thought with a devilish smile inside that this was the punishment for his own stupid actions. But the next moment, Maeda turned and gave Rumi the same scary look, so she ducked and tried to hide like a child, wishing she could somehow explain herself. When he finally turned his face forward again, Rumi sat up straight in relief. But our devilish Seki didn't give up. He pulled out the hook again, ready for another try. As soon as he made a move, Maeda repeated the same action and scared both of them straight again. This time, Seki took out a small remote control car, which immediately caught Rumi's attention. She thought about calling him stupid again, but saw that Seki actually opened his notebook and started writing notes. Rumi was surprised that instead of playing, he was actually learning something, and his face was so serious that Rumi thought he was memorizing something really hard. She leaned over and saw he was memorizing traffic laws. Rumi's jaw dropped that he was working so hard just for a toy car. Seki kept memorizing the rules and then made his own tests and checked it himself. When he got good marks, he sighed in relief, like he had achieved something big. Then he took out different things from his bag and set up a proper driving school on his desk. Rumi finally understood what he was doing, but reminded herself that getting a driving license for a remote control car was not smart. She got annoyed and thought she wished he would just have a normal hobby for once. But who could stop this master of wasting time? She got bored waiting for him to finally drive the car. Seki looked around the car and took a deep breath of some unknown peace, then slowly started driving it. But the car was so slow that Rumi lost all interest. When the car hit something and stopped, it was another blow to Seki's motivation. Rumi called it boring in her mind and prayed he would get out of this rules obsession or she would get annoyed herself. On his next try, Seki tried to drive the car up a small ramp, but even with full focus, the car flipped over and fell down, and with it, Seki's hope also fell. Rumi was surprised to see how sad he looked over such a small thing, and wondered why he didn't just try again instead of giving up. The next day, Rumi saw he was still busy with the same car. She couldn't believe he stuck with one toy for so long, but what shocked her most were the bandages on his hands. She thought about how much effort he must have put in to hurt his fingers. She felt a little sympathy and watched his next try carefully. This time, Seki seriously made the car cross the ramp, and the car successfully completed the journey. He sighed in relief and felt satisfied. Then, with a devilish smile, pulled out another piece of paper and started making something new. Rumi thought maybe he would get bored and start a new game, but she saw he had actually made his own driving license. She was shocked that Seki had prepared so much in advance, then thought, well, whatever. At least he looked truly happy, so this time she forgave him. The whole scene started to look cute to her, and inside she wished she had a license like that too. At that moment, the teacher noticed Seki's raised hand and immediately called on him to answer a question. Seki's face changed color, and Rumi thought he totally deserved what was happening this time. He turned to Rumi with hopeful eyes, but this time Rumi had already decided inside that she wouldn't help him. Our sneaky hero quickly offered her his homemade license card to tempt her, and Rumi's heart started to melt. But as soon as she heard she had to take a test before helping, she immediately remembered how hard the rules were. In 1 second, she forgot her temptation and betrayed Seki instead, feeling happy inside that this time he got trapped himself. During lunch break, while the whole class was chatting, someone complimented Seki's lunchbox. Seki proudly said he made the lunch himself, and at that moment, he took out an octopus sausage. Rumi went crazy seeing how cute it was, but Seki heartlessly chewed it up and finished it, which ruined Rumi's mood. She got completely lost staring at his lunch, but her friends snapped her out of it, so she decided to just eat her own food and not look at him. Unfortunately, Seki's actions caught her attention again. She saw more sausages and started overthinking inside, while Seki carelessly picked up another sausage. She saw the sausages stuck together, like a small brave team standing against a big boss monster, but Rumi screamed inside in panic when Seki stuffed all 3 in his mouth at once and ate them mercilessly. In her mind, it turned into a scene where Seki was a heartless giant destroying the whole village. But suddenly he stopped. Rumi saw a new octopus, fully prepared to save the rest of its kind, and thought inside that now the villain would lose, but Seki just ate it in a totally normal way, leaving Rumi in shock. But this time the sausage got stuck in Seki's throat, and he panicked a little, which strangely comforted Rumi. Her friends noticed the devilish look on her face, but she quickly put on a straight face and tried to finish her own food. At the same time, she realized Seki was eating only sausages all day, and now he was getting tired of them. In Rumi's mind, she pictured 4 last brave soldiers surviving the bloody attack, but Seki shared even those with his friends, which killed any happiness left on Rumi's face. The friends happily cleaned the whole plate, and Rumi started crying inside over his actions, so much that tears came to her eyes and her friends started looking at her in worry. At that moment, our devilish hero took out another lunchbox, this one filled with apple slices cut in the shape of rabbits. As soon as Rumi saw this, she was about to cry like a little kid and begged inside for him to just stop this cruelty now. The teacher handed out printouts in class but brought the wrong number, so told everyone to share and work together. By bad luck, Rumi's seat ended up right next to Seki. She prayed inside that today he wouldn't do anything stupid and would just pay attention to class. She noticed Seki's face looked annoyed. At first she didn't get it, then realized that because the desk was pushed forward, he couldn't take out his usual toy, so he was just sitting there sulking. Rumi laughed a little at his helplessness, so Seki quickly pulled out a deck of cards from his pencil box. He shuffled them like a pro and showed Rumi a card, put it back, then proudly pulled out the same card again, but instead of being impressed, Rumi just got more annoyed. She immediately understood he was in the mood to show off magic tricks today, but his weird face and self-satisfied look ruined the whole thing. Seki pulled out another card, but Rumi, annoyed, tried to ignore him. He put the card back and told her to pick one herself, but she acted like she hadn't seen anything. He did a good trick, but Rumi didn't even look up and just kept working. When the teacher told her to turn the page, she was surprised to find a card inside. She didn't even remember putting anything there and admitted to herself the trick was actually good, but immediately switched to angry mode and dramatically crumpled the card so Seki couldn't enjoy it. Seki immediately started crying like a little kid, mourning the death of the card with tears in his eyes, and went quiet. Just then, the teacher called on Mita to answer a question. As soon as he stood up, Rumi noticed another card stuck to the back of his pants, and she was shocked, wondering how the same card she just tore up was back again. Seki had that same weird victorious smile on his face, then pulled out eye drops from his pocket to show her, and Rumi realized that his crying like a child was all just an act. She barely managed to hold back her laughter inside, so Seki wouldn't get the satisfaction that his tricks were really that great. She replayed the whole scene in her head and figured out all his moves, feeling completely satisfied and going back to focusing on class, as if nothing bothered her anymore. But Seki didn't stop there. He picked up the crumpled card, gave it a spin, and pulled the diamond symbol out of his mouth from the same card. This time, Rumi was genuinely shocked, jumped up, and quickly looked at Maida, but the card had disappeared from there. Seki finally managed to surprise her. At that moment, the teacher announced class was over, and it was true. This whole show had finished in just one period, and Rumi was left more stunned than before that it all happened so fast. A boring biology class was going on. Rumi was calmly taking notes, when suddenly, she stopped writing after seeing Seki. He was wearing glasses. She searched her memory and was sure this was the first time he had worn glasses. He took a mirror out of his pocket and started looking at his own face. Rumi thought, whatever, it's not a big deal. Maybe today he actually planned to study. But our hero immediately started checking his face in the mirror. At first, Rumi was confused, then thought maybe he had become more sensitive about his looks, so he was staring at himself. This was new for her, but she kept watching. After a while, Seki froze in front of the mirror, not moving at all, so Rumi started to worry what the problem was. Then he suddenly struck a dramatic pose, and a slight smile appeared on Rumi's lips. He froze again, and Rumi's worry returned, but this time he pulled out not just one, but a whole stash of glasses from his pocket. Rumi's eyes went wide. She thought instead of playing with so many glasses, he should be at the doctor's office. She quietly told him to pack everything up, or the teacher would really go after both of them, but Seki shamelessly picked up another pair and put them on, acting like he didn't hear a thing. He kept changing glasses, and Rumi realized he had clearly decided he wouldn't stop until he found the perfect frame, and now nothing could stop him. Rumi didn't even like glasses on him, but stopped herself from saying more, knowing she'd get caught up too. Seki put on another frame and looked in the mirror, and Rumi's mouth dropped open. For the first time, she admitted this pair actually looked good on him. For the first time, she saw a hint of cuteness on his face, and she lowered her eyes with a shy smile. She kept watching him, but as soon as Seki looked at her, she quickly turned her face away. He put that frame back and tried on another pair, posing like a model, but Rumi kept thinking about the previous glasses she liked. Then he changed frames one after another, and to Rumi, each new pair looked weirder and uglier than the last. She thought he was just making a joke out of himself. Seki finally reached for the frame Rumi liked, but at the last moment, he left it and picked up a flashy red Power Ranger-style pair. Rumi was about to explode inside, but as soon as he turned toward her, she quickly turned her face away again. Sometimes she glared at him so hard that Seki's hand started shaking, and he reached for the next pair of glasses very carefully. Whenever he picked up a ridiculous frame, Rumi screamed inside, and sometimes even whispered, "Don't do it." Finally, Seki reached for the good frame again, and Rumi watched his every move closely to make sure he didn't change his mind. When he put on the glasses, a satisfied happiness appeared on Rumi's face, and she thought, "This is finally the right one." Seki looked in the mirror and finally decided to keep that frame. Rumi's mood instantly improved, and she felt a strange peace inside that she had, in a way, taken part in this decision, even if Seki didn't know it. She felt like she had actually helped him with something. But the very next moment, Seki packed up the glasses and took out Jenga, starting his new game as if the whole glasses drama had never happened. By the end of the day, Rumi's patience snapped. She remembered that the glasses she had chosen from her heart, Seki didn't wear them again for even a second the whole day. Thinking about it, she burned up inside and promised herself she wouldn't take his choices so seriously next time. But this time, Rumi kept herself under control and focused on class, taking notes. Still, for a moment, when she saw that same smug smile on Seki's face, she couldn't help but wonder what new show he was making on his flipbook. She remembered that his flipbook was one of his masterpieces, and suddenly realized he had never drawn anything while sitting in front of her. She leaned over a little and saw a strange doodle drawing in the corner with small dialogues written next to it. Rumi thought maybe they were song lyrics, but it all seemed pointless to her because no one could read words while flipping pages that fast. But when she looked closely, she went crazy seeing that Seki had written the words in exactly the same spot on every page, so they appeared in the right place while flipping. Just thinking about how much effort it took to write so many times made her feel tired, so she decided not to get caught up in this madness and focused on her notes for the upcoming tests. She knew Seki's antics always ruined her studies, and whatever he was making now would definitely distract her, so she kept her head down and kept writing. After a while, Seki's hand got tired and he pulled a small microphone out of his pocket, which made Rumi's eyes go wide again. He started recording something while flipping the flipbook quickly and holding the mic. Rumi, worried, tried to stop him from doing all this in class, but he kept working with full focus. Rumi thought maybe he was doing something like anime dubbing, like voice actors recording lines along with the scene. But since he made all this in the corner of his textbook, she wondered if all that effort was really necessary. Seki kept starting the recording, flipping the flipbook, and checking the result. And Rumi couldn't believe, looking at his serious face, that this was the same guy who usually just played around in class. She felt like he was really trying to take it to a professional level. After a lot of checking, he finally seemed satisfied, turned off the recording, and gave Rumi a thumbs up. Rumi hid her reaction with all her strength so she wouldn't accidentally compliment him. As soon as class ended, she quietly waited for all the kids to leave. Seki's bag was still there, so she slowly reached into it and found the flipbook and recorder. She put the headphones in her ears, feeling a bit embarrassed, a bit excited, then slowly started flipping through the pages and watching the scene like a video. As the scene went on, the sound quality shocked her. The little footsteps, the birds chirping, the light sound of wind. Everything was recorded so cleanly that she couldn't believe it. When the airplane scene came, she got even more nervous, feeling weirdly guilty that she was so interested in someone else's personal work. A soft song started playing in the background, and Rumi was thankful inside that at least the song wasn't in Seki's own voice, or she probably couldn't have handled it. But at the same time, she admitted he had really done an amazing job. Everything together felt just like a short film. She watched the whole scene play out in front of her eyes like a cinema and, for a few moments, got completely lost in the story. As soon as the flipbook reached the end, suddenly a commercial-like recording started, which sounded totally different from everything else, and Rumi was startled, wondering what it was. Later, she found out that Seki had recorded an awesome ad with the owner of his favorite toy shop that day, and he had stuck it at the end of the flipbook just for his own fun. The teacher suddenly called Rumi to the faculty room. He seriously asked her if she had something on her mind, because lately she hadn't been paying attention in class at all. Rumi immediately thought of Seki, but decided not to say anything, because if Seki found out later, it would be hard to face him. Before going back, she overheard 2 or 3 teachers outside whispering about a surprise inspection. In Rumi's mind, she instantly pictured that if Seki's bag got checked and all his junk came out, he'd be in serious trouble. Then she thought maybe it would be a good lesson for him. When the teacher asked again if she was really okay, Rumi replied with a slight evil smile that she was feeling great today. As soon as she returned to class, the teacher announced a field trip and the whole class started cheering, but Seki, as usual, was lost in his own world. Rumi saw that he had brought out the robot family again, and each one had a small bag tied to it. As always, she started getting obsessed with them. But the next moment, a shock ran through her mind. If the teacher found these robots during inspection, he might break them in anger. Just thinking about it drained the color from her face, and she wished inside that Seki hadn't brought these things out today. The teacher officially announced the inspection, which scared the whole class. Only now did Seki realize something was wrong. Rumi glared at him in frustration and quickly told him to hide everything immediately or he'd be in serious trouble. Seki started moving fast, but misunderstood completely. He lined up the robot family as if they were about to be inspected themselves. Rumi felt like banging her head against the wall, but with little time left, she forced herself to explain directly before the teacher reached them. The closer the teacher's footsteps got, the colder Rumi's hands felt, but finally Seki understood. He stuffed everything into a box, opened the window, and lowered it down with a rope, then calmly tied off the rope and closed the window as if nothing had happened. Rumi was amazed at his professional skill, but the next moment her eyes widened again when she saw the robot family was still on the desk. She cursed him as an idiot inside, but also knew the teacher was just a few steps away, so she started screaming inside in panic for him to do something. Finally, Seki got an idea, pulled out his lunchbox, and quickly hid 2 robots inside. Rumi breathed a sigh of relief for a moment, thinking maybe they'd be safe now. But then she noticed the robot dad was still outside the box, standing in a pose as if he was enjoying the whole scene. The teacher reached Seki and started checking his bag and desk. Rumi, panicking, lowered her head and imagined the worst. She forced herself to open her eyes and saw the robot dad stuck behind Seki's chair at an angle where the teacher couldn't see him. The inspection somehow finished safely and the teacher moved on, bringing real relief to Rumi's face. Now it was Rumi's turn. The teacher moved toward her bag and she happily breathed out, thinking at least the robot mess was over, but the next moment the teacher pulled a CD out of her bag. Rumi's face dropped again. She had been so caught up with Seki that she forgot she even had that in her bag. Seki gave her a weird, half-amused, half-judgmental look, which annoyed her even more, but the teacher's harsh voice pulled her back to reality. He seriously asked if she had any problems at home, if something was wrong. Rumi nervously answered quickly that everything was fine, nothing was wrong, but the teacher didn't care, confiscated the CD, and said they'd talk about it later. Rumi screamed inside, feeling like all her effort and privacy had been snatched away in a second. As soon as class ended, she blamed Seki for everything in her mind, and decided that whatever happened, it was his fault. Because if she hadn't gotten caught up in his antics from the start, her stuff wouldn't have been confiscated today.